So today we have a very special guest, Gene Inger. I'm bringing him back onto the show for the third time. So for some of the new followers here, he has been in the market since the late 1960s, and he's still to this day is covering stocks and doing it at a very high level. He has a newsletter that he sends out to his quarterly subscribers, and he has a ton. He is a fountain of great information. And every time I talk to him, I learn a whole bunch. So I'm going to ask him a lot of questions. Are these tariffs, are investors underestimating what's going to happen? I'm going to ask him about that. We're going to talk about BigBear.Ai. Gene had posted to his Twitter, he felt that BigBear.Ai could someday be $100 stock. So I want to ask him a little bit about that. We're going to talk about DWave Quantum and maybe a couple other stocks, and we're going to do this in about a half hour. So without further ado, Gene, welcome to the channel. How are you today?
Hi, Majin. Well, I'm fine. Happy 4th of July weekend, everybody.
Happy 4th.
And at least you referred to me as a fountain of information. I'm honored and appreciate that, as opposed to someone in the market who referred to me as one of the last standing pillars of the old generation of analysts. And the problem is pillars turn to salt, and I'd rather be vertical a while longer. Thank you very much. And you're doing a great job covering quantum computing. I think you're maybe the first guy that's doing that. Didn't mention, if you want me to give a plug, it'll be, and it's free of charge, always will be, my Twitter or X comment that I usually do every morning, sometimes more than once a day, and that's on x.com, or X if you have the app.
And we'll put your handle right on this screen. So that's Stockseer, right?
At Stockseer, correct.
Gotcha. We'll put it on the screen so everyone can follow you who wants to stay up to date with you. So
yeah, I'm surprised about a couple of the people that follow me on there. I probably shouldn't name them, but you would know the names, and they include a couple major fund managers. So I'm pleased. You know, after 50 years or more, maybe something penetrated this skull.
So Gene, you've seen the ups and downs of market cycles, and we were definitely in a pretty intense correction in March and April of this year. Not necessarily a crash, but definitely a solid correction where the NASDAQ was down 25%, and a lot of drawdowns on high beta stocks, especially stocks you and I talk about.
You had two things that happened. You had the tariff panic, and you had the quantum computer collapse, thanks to Jensen, before he switched his pitch and pretended he didn't even know these were public companies, remember?
Exactly, yeah. And he has changed kind of how he's talking about that.
Yeah, this is an interesting year because and I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you did something that I didn't either. You didn't panic, and I didn't panic. And I actually added to positions, particularly in DWave.
So Tom Lee said this is the most hated V-shaped recovery. And meaning
Tom is correct. He's not always right, but we've been on the same page pretty much.
And I think what that means is people don't think the market should be where it is right now. What do you think?
Which part of the market?
I mean, a lot of the stocks we talk about, tech is doing really well. I mean, most of the market is at all-time highs, right?
And it's still propelled by the usual suspects and the names that everybody knows. And I don't need to go through the Magnificent 8 if you want, maybe 10 by now. But one of the arguments that people make is that the market should go down because look how much of it is not participating, to which I will respond by saying, oh, well, that means you can have a broadening out. You can have interest rates come down. You can have more slowing in the economy. It helps if the overall tone of the market is favorable. Your speculative stocks, like a BigBear, like Ondas, which is a drone maker, a small speculative Israeli-American stock that I put on the list, quantum computing. These stocks can do better if the speculative mindset and mood feels good out there. But if they really have outperformance in the fundamentals, you can get more stair-step irregular patterns, but you can end up with a stock that goes higher almost regardless of what the S&P does, shy of a complete tanking. Under the new bill, accelerated depreciation, you can expense it, write it off your corporate income taxes this year, in the year you put the gear into service. So now, so you're going to have that tax law now, and I think it's retroactive this year, certainly in 2026. So now you're going to have all these data centers and everything else that people want to spend money on as quick as they can before any chance of a congressional change in tax policy might once again withdraw that feature of the tax code. And I think that's the basis. The other thing, and this is more of a very long term, but I think it's maybe terrific, and you would have thought the Democrats would come up with it, but for some reason they seem to be opposing things instead of being creative if they want to help the poorer people in the country. The $1,000 funding for every baby that's born in the United States.
And that's the one, that's the one that's very interesting to me, because that gets people more interested in the stock market and more interested in buying the US and America and Americans.
They have a horse in the race, a dog in the
and they're able to I think it's $5,000 a year, so almost Roth-like savings for your kid from an early age. I think that's probably the best idea, and also the no tip tax, right? So for
the education thing, the $1,000 compounded gives enough money so if the kid wants to go to college, the money's there without the family taking loans and crazy student loans and mortgaging the house with a second mortgage.
So BigBear.Ai, crazy run in the last few trading weeks. It's up from $3 and change to, I think it closed near $8.
I'm surprised it's only not even yet 10. That's next.
And so what do you think about BigBear? I want to get your thoughts on BigBear and where is BigBear going?
Matters is volume.
It does have good volume, but how is this rally different? Because last time it felt like a pump and dump. Last time it ran up to $10 and then it shot back down to $3.
When the high volume started, I was questioning what was going on. Was this AE Industrial Partners, which is still the controlling shareholder of BigBear? People post things online and they say it's BlackRock and Vanguard. No, it's not. It's AE Industrial Partners. AE Industrial Partners has two funds that they set up to invest in aerospace and data. And the biggest investor in that partnership, and nobody ever mentions it, is Boeing Aircraft. Boeing is their big client. And they created Pangiam, which was private, which merged into BigBear. You could argue that's almost Pangiam that absorbed BigBear, but they will never say that. They're a very quiet bunch of guys. They're mostly retired Navy, Air Force, CIA, FBI, and they all play golf in Boca Raton. The deal they made in the UAE, United Arab Emirates, for anyone that doesn't know, Qatar and Dubai, and this may get them, for example, you may see them not only at America, not just Denver, LA, New York, you might see them at Emirates in Dubai. The deal that they made, which is for leasing companies, the largest leasing company in the Persian Gulf sheikdoms, that leasing company is controlled by a conglomerate in Dubai. And that conglomerate has the same guy running it. And he happens to be, somebody told me, and I can't prove this, that he's the Director of National Security for the UAE. He's also a managing partner of the UAE Sovereign Investment Fund. Oh, what do they have over there, mostly from us in the West, spending it on? Oil. They have so much oil money. Look at Dubai. I mean, and right. I don't know where this is going. And that whole theory could be cockamamie, except that guy's name is there on those titles.
Well, you also said something about BigBear has a lot of verticals. And you said they have even more verticals than Palantir, something to that effect, right?
Palantir is primarily military, but not entirely. Big Bear was primarily military, and now it's showing what I don't think people anticipated, a commercial side. And government is historically slow pay. And if you can blend it between commercial, military, and maybe health, by the way, and logistics, by the way, now you have those are verticals. So if you have an Air Force contract, an Army contract, a Defense Department Joint Chiefs of Staff contract, and they do, those are horizontals within the defense vertical. The other, if you get Amazon Web Services as a client, that's logistics. That's a different vertical, right? And that's what I mean. That's all I'm really saying, that they're broadening out where they're aiming their business at. The leasing company in the Middle East, that's logistics, I guess. That's not defense. It might be, but you know where these things can lead.
Revenue coming up is likely to be good. Lots of potential partnerships overseas. They're in airports, increasing number of airports, LA, Chicago, all over the place with their face scan technology. Free advertising for them as far as I'm concerned. So Big Bear is looking more and more like it's not going to be a pump and dump. Maybe this rally is a little bit different.
People are still worried. Of course it's different. In my view, there's no question about it, because the airlines and FAA and TSA, and what people are missing in some of this, perhaps you may not be missing it, but if you saw the picture that people have been posting, including me, and the wires were still hanging, they just installed it at Terminal 4 at JFK. But it was already at Terminal 4 at JFK. How so? It was at Delta Airlines at Terminal 4 departing. It was at TSA departing. What you saw posted last week is Custom and Border Patrol, not the airline and not TSA, but CBP arriving international. Why is that crucial? Because that ties into the National Crime Information Database. It ties into Interpol, FBI. That's not what you have on your standard boarding for a domestic flight, where you're showing the QR code to the screen at welcome aboard. It's a little different. It's going to expedite, certainly, people getting through customs a lot faster.
So DWave had finished their at the money offering, and is it at the market or at the money? I always forget.
At the market
offering, and they have now $815 million in cash.
You're the expert. You tell me what they're going to do with it.
If you look back 2 quarters, their reported cash and cash equivalent was around 50 million. So they've compared to what they've had historically for the entire duration of the company. And what else is interesting is in June, while this ATM was happening, the stock was moving down a little bit. But as soon as the ATM ended, we've seen 4 green days, and we're almost back to $17 a share already.
We also had Cantor Fitzgerald come out and recommend the stock,
right,
with a ridiculously low. The stock's almost 8. Oh, we're bullish now. It could go to 9. Gee, let's buy at 8 with a goal of 9.
I think they came out with a price target of 20.
Oh no, I'm sorry, 20.
Yeah, and then as soon as they released that video,
my mind is still at Big Bear.
Yeah, as soon as they released the video, I released my price target of 40. And
really?
Yep.
Then I'll put mine at 38.
That's the Price is Right. 38.50.
Okay.
So tell me, like, from your perspective, you have a lot of shares of DWave. You bought options. The biggest mistrade in my life was not buying call options prior to this last earnings, because I knew they were going to come in. I mean, they told everyone they were going to come in and do what they did, and the sentiment was washed out. The stock was down under $6 a share, and the thing went up to almost $20 a share on all the excitement. So where does it go from here? What's your read on the situation? What do you think is the future for DWave?
Your read is going to be closer. Mine was confusing it with Big Bear a moment ago. About I don't know. I would like to say that I knew, for example, how they're handling the installation, which is finished, of one of their Advantage 2 computers at Davidson Technologies in Huntsville, Alabama, which happens to serve the U.S. Army and the U.S. Space Force. Is that what it's there for? It's not clear. Is it leased to Davidson? Not clear. Is it sold to Davidson? Apparently not. Unless you know, because I don't, as far as I know, they've not discussed the finances. Why does that matter? That was installed in the second quarter. And if there's any revenue that would accrue, if they want it, because it's very hard for them to blow out what they did in Q1. Do you have any heads up on that?
I don't have any heads up on that. And the reason, so for me, it is an interesting situation. I think that's why you saw sentiment sort of dip in this last month. And then if you look at the pace of their press releases, they were hitting us with 6 or 7 headlines every month.
Yeah, now there's nothing.
And lately they've been a little bit more quiet. We got the South Korea partnership, and they did get an Advantage 2 geographically in that part of the world. So now you have one in Germany, you've got one in Alabama, you've got one in South Korea, and you got to start somewhere, right? These aren't cheap machines. They're $20 to $40 million each. So and then you also have their pharmaceutical research with Japan Tobacco. I think DWave still has a lot of potential. It has a lot of room to grow. It's just a matter of them proving to the market their value.
So I should say that DWave is the $100 stock, so I can outdo your $40.
So do you have any other kind of thoughts on DWave, or it sounds like you're not selling any shares?
Well, I sold some,
right?
Particularly, and I bought them back.
Gotcha.
I've got a bunch of warrants. And what are they going to do with the $800 million or whatever you said it is now?
Exactly. Yeah.
What could they do?
I mean, they can do acquisitions. They can hire more. They can. They still need to build out their gate machine, and they want to be the full provider of both annealing and gate. So I think there's a lot they can do.
Could they buy Rigetti?
What was that?
Could they buy Rigetti?
I don't think so. I think Regetti and DWave are similar, close-ish in market cap. But that would be a crazy.
Rigetti is 4.3 billion.
And DWave is
the market cap? One moment, please. I'll get you that information. I am Gene.AI.
Better than Grok.
This is our casual Saturday chat. 5.25 billion.
So they're similar. I don't see that happening. But still interesting to think about. Now, one last thing. For all those that follow the channel that are invested and probably have seen some nice gains in their portfolio since April, market tends to be cyclical. There are a lot of bullish signals, but there's still potentially some headwinds ahead. There is always some sort of something ahead, right? Do you trust the grain? Do you trust the gains? Or do you think the market's in a precarious place?
The Russell can go higher, especially if interest rates get cut by the Fed, because a lot of smaller companies represented. The S&P can be a split decision scenario where the S&P, it has to correct at some point. You also have the phenomenon, and that's why so many guys have missed the rally, that when the VIX gets very low and the S&P is very high, they have formulaic approaches, and they will tend to cut back a certain percentage because they'll feel they're overexposed to equities. They're overexposed to expensive equities, not to equities in general.
Sure.
And you know, a data stock or one of these nuclear power stocks is not going to do the same thing in a market crunch that an EV is going to is going to do. It depends what you're looking at. Like you probably like Archer, and I don't have an interest in it.
Yeah, I mean, I like Archer and Joby both. I don't want. One of the things that I do is I'm pretty cautious. I would rather, instead of picking one horse in a sector, if I believe in a sector or technology, then I bet on multiple horses. And if one doesn't win, that's okay with me.
Well, that's what I did with quantum computing. I had IonQ, doubled my money on that and sold it. I forgot to keep some.
Oops. Because I still think IonQ, my price target in 2025 is $100 a share.
Well, I hope you're right. I'm not buying it.
I think that right now, technically, it's set up for a breakout and a test of its all-time highs. But it's not really even about the technicals. It's about the fact that of all the quantum companies, they actually have a respectable amount of revenue relatively to other pure plays. And the revenue is trending in the correct direction.
So what did IonQ do for me? Besides doubling, it provided the funding and the awareness. Wait a minute, this is the next thing, is quantum computing. Mm-hmm. And what did I do? I went out and bought all the other ones. I bought QUBT, I bought Rigetti, and I bought DWave. Then I said, well, which of these is making money? And the only one that was offering actual services commercially at the time was DWave. So I said, and I wrote to our Inger letter readers, and I said, let's make that our focus stock for quantum computing. And I don't care about gate computing down the line. This sounds like the first company that could actually have positive cash flow,
right?
In theory. And so we focused, and plus Alan and those guys came from Cisco. So the fact that they came from Cisco means they're not just pure engineers like a couple other companies, but they have some business common sense. I would think.
All right, thanks, Gene. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me back.